Here's something nobody tells you about goals. Roughly 92% of people who set them never achieve them. Think about that for a second. You're sitting there right now, probably with a mental list of things you want to accomplish. Maybe it's finally getting in shape, starting that business, learning a new skill, or hitting a financial target. And statistically, you're going to fail. But here's where it gets interesting. There's this small group of people, about 8%, who consistently hit their targets. They're not smarter than you. They're not more talented. They don't have more time or better circumstances. So what separates them from everyone else? Or do they know that the other 92% don't? I spent months digging through psychological research, studying achievement patterns, and talking to people who actually accomplish what they set out to do. And what I found completely changed how I think about goals. Because here's the truth. The conventional wisdom about goal setting is fundamentally broken. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why most people fail, and more importantly, how to make sure you're not one of them. Let me start with a story that'll probably sound familiar. Last January, my friend Mark told me he was finally going to get serious about fitness. He bought a gym membership, new workout clothes, even hired a trainer for the first month. He was pumped. By February 15th, he'd been to the gym exactly twice. The membership card was collecting dust in his wallet, and those expensive sneakers were sitting in the closet. Mark isn't lazy. He's actually incredibly disciplined in his career. He's a successful project manager who handles complex timelines and delivers results consistently. So what happened? Why could he crush it at work but completely fall apart when it came to his personal goal? The answer reveals something crucial about how achievement actually works. And it's something that only about 3% of people actually understand well enough to write down their goals. But we'll get to that in a minute. First, let's talk about what happens in your brain when you set a goal. When you decide you want something, let's say running a marathon, your brain lights up with possibility. You feel motivated. You can visualize yourself crossing that finish line. This feeling, it's intoxicating, and it's also completely useless. Because motivation is the most overrated factor in achievement. I know that sounds crazy. Every motivational speaker tells you to find your why and stay motivated. But research on implementation intentions shows that having a strong goal doesn't predict whether you'll actually achieve it. The problem isn't wanting it badly enough. The problem is that your brain is working against you. Your brain has this quirk. When you imagine achieving a goal, it releases dopamine, the same chemical you get when you actually achieve it. So just thinking about becoming fit gives you a mini reward. Your brain gets a taste of success without doing any of the actual work. It's like getting dessert before dinner, except you never end up eating dinner. This is why vision boards and affirmations feel so good but rarely produce results. You're literally tricking your brain into thinking you've already succeeded. And once your brain gets that hit, it loses interest in the hard part, the actual doing. But here's what's fascinating. There's a specific technique that completely bypasses this problem. It's called implementation intentions, and the research behind it is kind of mind-blowing. Studies analyzing 94 independent experiments involving over 8,000 people found that forming if-then plans had a powerful effect size of 0.65 on rates of goal completion. In plain English, that means this one technique can dramatically increase your chances of success. So what is it? Instead of just setting a goal like I'm going to exercise more, you create a specific trigger. If it's Monday at 7 a.m., then I will go to the gym. That's it. Sounds simple, right? But the mechanics of why this works are fascinating. When you create these if-then statements, you're essentially programming your brain to act automatically. The technique creates mental links between specific situations and desired behaviors, making the response automatic when you encounter that situation. You're not relying on motivation or willpower anymore. You're recreating what researchers call strategic automaticity. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't wake up each morning and debate whether to brush them. You don't need motivation. You just do it automatically because it's linked to a specific time and place in your routine. That's the power we're tapping into here, but there's something else going on that most people completely miss. And this is where things get really interesting. Remember my friend Mark, the one who failed at his fitness goal but crushed it at work. The difference wasn't discipline, it was structure. At work, Mark didn't just have a goal to manage projects well. He had systems, deadlines, checkpoints, accountability. He had if-then protocols built into his job description. When you strip away all the motivational fluff, successful goal achievement comes down to this: turning intentions into systems. And people who write down their goals are 42% more likely to achieve them. But here's the kicker. It's not the writing itself that matters. It's what the writing represents. When you write something down, you're forcing your brain to clarify what you actually want. Vague goals like get healthy become specific targets like run 3 miles without stopping. And specificity is everything. Research shows that 90% of studies on goal-setting theory confirm that setting specific and challenging goals leads to much better results. But specificity alone isn't enough. You need something else. Something that most goal-setting advice completely overlooks. Let me tell you about Sarah. She's a writer who wanted to finish her novel. She tried everything, setting word count goals, blocking out writing time, even telling all her friends about her book to create accountability. Nothing stuck. 2 years passed. The novel sat there, barely started, haunting her. Then she changed one thing. Instead of focusing on the outcome, finishing the novel, she focused on throughput. Every morning at 6 a.m., if I sit down at my desk, then I will write for 30 minutes. That's it. No word count requirements. No pressure to write anything good. Just show up and write. 6 months later, she had a finished first draft. What changed? She stopped making achievement about willpower and started making it about showing up. And this reveals something crucial about how successful people actually operate. They don't have more discipline than you. They've just engineered their environment and routines so that discipline becomes unnecessary. 76% of participants who wrote down their goals, outlined specific actions, and provided weekly progress updates to a friend successfully achieved their goals. Notice what's happening here. It's not just writing the goal. It's creating a complete system, clear goals, action plans, and accountability. But there's a specific order to this. And getting the sequence wrong is why so many people fail. Most people start with the big, inspiring vision. I'm going to lose 50 pounds. Then they try to reverse engineer the daily actions needed to get there. And this approach fails 92% of the time. Why? Because your brain can't sustain motivation for distant rewards. Losing 50 pounds is months away. But that donut is sitting right there, demanding attention right now. The immediate always beats the distant unless you have a system in place. So successful people flip the script. They start with the smallest possible action, something so easy they can't fail. Then they build from there. James Clear talks about this in Atomic Habits. Want to become someone who exercises? Don't commit to an hour at the gym. Commit to putting on your workout clothes. That's it. The key is creating habits consciously through if-then plans that build new beneficial patterns. Once the clothes are on, you'll probably exercise. Beautiful if you don't. You've reinforced the identity of someone who shows up. This is called identity-based goal setting. Instead of focusing on what you want to achieve, focus on who you want to become. Don't set a goal to write a book. Decide to become a writer. Don't aim to lose weight. Decide to become someone who takes care of their health. The difference seems subtle, but it's profound. When your goal is external, lose weight, make money, achieve a success, you're always chasing something outside yourself. But when your goal is identity-based, every action reinforces who you are. You're not trying to achieve something. You're expressing who you've already decided to be. Now, here's where most people stumble. They understand the concepts. They know they should be specific. They know they should build systems. They even know about implementation intentions. But they still fail. Why? Because nobody talks about the invisible forces working against you. The psychological obstacles that derail even the best-laid plans. And chief among these is something called ego depletion. We can only practice so much self-control before gradually exhausting our capacity for self-regulation, becoming more vulnerable to our triggers and making worse decisions. Think about your typical day. You wake up energized, ready to tackle your goals. By afternoon, you're tired. By evening, you're done. That's when the excuses start flowing. I'll start tomorrow. I deserve a break. One day won't matter. This isn't weakness. It's biology. Your willpower is a finite resource. And every decision you make, every temptation you resist, depletes it a little more. By the end of the day, you're running on fumes. So what do successful people do differently? They don't fight biology. They work with it first. They schedule their most important goal-related tasks for when their willpower is strongest, usually in the morning. Don't try to go to the gym after work when you're exhausted. Go first thing before your willpower gets depleted. Second, they remove decisions wherever possible. Steve Jobs wore the same outfit every day. Why? One less decision, one less drain on his willpower. You might not want to adopt a uniform, but you can apply the same principle to your goals. Make your goal-related behaviors as automatic and decision-free as possible, but there's another obstacle that's even more insidious. And this one lives in your social circle. You know what happens when you tell people about your goals? They say they're supportive, they encourage you, and then subtly they start undermining you, not intentionally, but humans are tribal creatures. When someone in the tribe changes, it creates discomfort. If you start getting fit, your out-of-shape friends might feel judged. If you start building a business, your 9-to-5 friends might feel threatened. Research shows that those who share their goals with friends and provide weekly progress updates have dramatically higher success rates. But there's a catch. You have to choose the right people. Share your goals with people who are already where you want to be, or with people who have their own ambitious goals and understand the journey. Avoid sharing with people who will give you an easy out. Don't be so hard on yourself. One cheat day won't hurt. These statements feel supportive, but they're actually sabotage. You need people who will call you out when you're making excuses, not enablers. Think of it this way. If you wanted to climb Mount Everest, would you seek advice from your couch surfing buddy who thinks hiking is too much work? Or would you find someone who's already summited? Your goals deserve the same respect. Now, let me tell you something that might make you uncomfortable. There's a good chance that some of the goals you've set aren't actually your goals at all. We live in a world that's constantly telling us what we should want. Social media shows us everyone's highlight reels. Society pushes certain definitions of success. Your family has expectations, your friends have opinions, and somewhere in all that noise, your authentic desires get buried. Some people are afraid they will fail or even succeed, causing them to avoid trying entirely because they lack belief in themselves. This fear often stems from pursuing goals that don't actually matter to you. When a goal truly resonates with your values and desires, failure becomes less scary because the journey itself is worthwhile. So before you commit to any goal, ask yourself, do I actually want this, or do I just think I should want it? If someone told you that you could magically achieve this goal right now, but nobody would ever know about it, would you still want it? If the answer is no, you're chasing external validation, not a real goal. And external validation is the weakest possible foundation for achievement. It'll crumble the moment things get difficult. Here's what real goal achievement looks like in practice. Let me break down the actual system that works. Step 1, pick one goal, not 3, not 5. 1. Trying to pursue too many goals at once leads to spreading yourself too thin and makes meaningful progress in any area difficult. You might think you're being ambitious by tackling multiple goals simultaneously. You're actually guaranteeing mediocre results across the board. Focus is a superpower. Use it. Step 2, get brutally specific. Get in shape is not a goal. Do 20 push-ups without stopping by March 1st is a goal. The more specific, the better. Your goal should be so clear that a stranger could determine whether you achieved it just by looking. Step 3, identify your implementation intention. This is your if-then statement. If it's 6 a.m. on a weekday, then I will do push-ups. Write this down. Put it somewhere you'll see it every day. Step 4, engineer your environment. Make the desired behavior easier and the undesired behavior harder. Want to do push-ups every morning? Put your workout clothes next to your bed so they're the first thing you see. Want to stop scrolling social media? Delete the apps from your phone. Step 5, build an accountability. Find one person who takes their own goals seriously and commit to sending them a weekly update on your progress. Participants who wrote their goals down, formulated action commitments, and sent weekly progress reports to friends had a 64% chance of achieving their goals. That's not just good odds. That's game-changing. Step 6, track leading indicators, not just results. Don't just measure whether you've lost weight. Measure whether you showed up to exercise. The leading indicator is the behavior. The lagging indicator is the result. Focus on the behavior and the results will follow. But here's something that trips people up. What happens when you miss a day? When you break your streak? When life gets in the way and you fall off track? This is the moment that separates the 8% from the 92%. Most people see a setback as failure. They break their streak and think, well, I've ruined it now, might as well quit. The successful 8%, they have a completely different response. They understand that missing one day doesn't matter. What matters is what you do the next day. It's important to be kind to yourself when you make mistakes or have lapses in your plans, as feeling guilt and shame doesn't help long-term goals. Don't aim for perfection. Aim for consistency over time. Think of it like this. If you drop your phone, do you then stomp on it and break it completely? Of course not. You pick it up and keep going. Do the same with your goals. Miss a workout, don't spiral into self-criticism. Just make sure you show up the next day. The goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to build an identity as someone who doesn't quit, someone who shows up even when it's hard, even when they don't feel like it, even when nobody's watching. Now let's talk about something most goal-setting advice ignores completely: the role of your past. You're carrying baggage from previous attempts. Every time you've failed before, your brain logged the experience. And now, when you try to set a new goal, your brain whispers, "Remember last time? You couldn't do it then. What makes you think this time will be different?" This is called learned helplessness, and it's incredibly powerful. Fear of failure is a pervasive concern. Thatton's efforts to achieve goals will not meet standards, often holding people back from even attempting objectives. Your brain is trying to protect you from disappointment by convincing you not to try. How do you break this cycle? By reframing failure completely. Every successful person you admire has failed more times than you've even tried. The difference is they see failure differently. It's not evidence of inadequacy, it's data. When Thomas Edison was asked about failing 10,000 times before inventing the light bulb, he said he didn't fail 10,000 times. He found 10,000 ways that didn't work. That's not just a cute quote. That's a fundamentally different relationship with failure. You need to develop the same relationship. When you fall short of a goal, don't ask, "Why did I fail?" Ask, "What did I learn?" The goal isn't to avoid failure. The goal is to fail forward, extracting lessons from every setback. Here's something else that nobody talks about. The timeline for achieving goals is almost always wrong. A study involving 271 participants found that only 10% successfully achieved their ambitious goals, leaving 90% to face failure. But here's what's interesting. Many of those who failed actually made significant progress. They just didn't hit their arbitrary deadline. We have this cultural obsession with speed. Lose 20 pounds in 30 days. Make six figures in your first year. Master a language in 3 months. These timelines aren't realistic. They're marketing. And when you don't hit them, you feel like a failure even though you might be making excellent progress. This is where the tortoise and hare wisdom actually applies. Slow, consistent progress beats frantic bursts, followed by burnout. You know what's better than working out intensely for 2 weeks and then quitting? Working out moderately for 2 years without stopping. Extend your timeline. If you think something will take 3 months, plan for 6. If you think it'll take a year, plan for 2. This isn't pessimism, it's realism. And it removes the crushing pressure that causes most people to give up. Let's talk about motivation again, because I want to be clear about something. I said earlier that motivation is overrated, and it is, but that doesn't mean it's useless. Motivation gets you started. Systems keep you going. You need both. The problem is that most people treat motivation like it's supposed to be constant. They think successful people wake up every day pumped and excited. That's not how it works. Successful people wake up every day and do the work, whether they feel like it or not. But there are ways to manufacture motivation when you need a boost. Visualizing your goals can make you as confident in achieving them, with 59% of visualizers feeling confident compared to 31% of non-visualizers. But here's the key: visualize the process, not just the outcome. Don't just imagine yourself having achieved the goal. Imagine yourself doing the work. See yourself at the gym, sweating, pushing through that last rep. See yourself at your desk, typing even when the words don't flow easily. That's the visualization that actually helps. Because here's the truth: achieving meaningful goals is hard. Anyone who tells you otherwise is selling something. There will be days when you don't want to show up, days when progress feels impossible, days when quitting seems like the smartest option. The people who succeed aren't the ones who never feel that way. They're the ones who show up anyway. Now, let me share something that changed my entire approach to goals. It's about reward timing. Your brain is wired to respond to immediate rewards. That's why it's so easy to choose Netflix over working on your goal. Netflix provides immediate pleasure. Your goal provides delayed gratification. And immediate always wins unless you're strategic about it. So successful people build in immediate rewards for their daily actions, not for achieving the big goal that's too far away. For showing up and doing the work, finished your daily writing session, have your favorite coffee, completed your workout. Watch that show you love. Made your sales calls, play your favorite game for 20 minutes. These immediate rewards keep your brain engaged in the process, but here's the clever part. Over time, the action itself becomes rewarding. Habits at work increase goal progress and work engagement because they save cognitive attentional resources, generating behaviors triggered by context and performed automatically. The push-ups start to feel good. The writing session becomes meditative. You start craving the behavior itself. That's when everything changes. You're no longer forcing yourself. You're no longer relying on discipline. The behavior has become part of who you are. Let me address the elephant in the room. What about when life genuinely gets in the way? What about when you have a legitimate crisis, or your circumstances change, or external factors derail your plans? This happens to everyone. And here's where flexibility becomes crucial. The goal-setting industry loves rigid rules. Never miss a day. No excuses. Winners never quit. This sounds tough and motivational, but it's actually just dumb. You need to focus on what you can control and accept that external factors will sometimes play a role. Life happens. The key is distinguishing between an excuse and a legitimate obstacle. An excuse sounds like, "I'm too tired to work out." A legitimate obstacle sounds like, "I broke my leg and can't physically exercise as planned." See the difference? When you hit a legitimate obstacle, you don't abandon the goal, you adapt. Broke your leg, can't run, but you can still do upper body exercises. Lost your job, can't invest in your business right now, but you can learn and plan. Got sick, can't work at full capacity, but you can do something small to maintain momentum. The principle is simple. Never have 2 bad days in a row. 1 day off is maintenance. 2 days off is the beginning of a new habit you don't want. There's one more piece to this puzzle, and it's possibly the most important. You need to understand your why, but not in the way motivational speakers talk about it. They tell you to think about your deep purpose, your legacy, your contribution to the world. That stuff is nice, but it's not what keeps you going when things get tough. What keeps you going is connecting your goal to your identity and values in a visceral way, not intellectually, viscerally. Let me explain. Say your goal is financial. Maybe you want to build wealth. The motivational speaker tells you to think about freedom and security and providing for your family. Nice ideas. Completely useless when you're tired and want to skip your side hustle work. But what if you reframe it? What if it's not about money at all? What if it's about proving to yourself that you can do hard things, about demonstrating to your kids that persistence pays off, about refusing to be someone who talks big but doesn't follow through? Now it's about identity. And identity is powerful. When you see goal achievement as a test of who you are, everything changes. It's no longer about whether you feel like doing the work. It's about whether you're the kind of person who keeps commitments to themselves. And here's the beautiful paradox. You don't need to already be that person. You become that person by acting like them. Every time you show up when you don't want to, you're casting a vote for that identity. After enough votes, it becomes true. So let me bring this all together. Here's what separates the 8% who achieve their goals from the 92% who don't. It's not intelligence, not talent, not resources, not luck. It's understanding that goals aren't achieved through motivation or willpower. They're achieved through systems, identity, and strategic automaticity. The 8% write down specific goals with clear deadlines. They create implementation intentions that trigger automatic behavior. They engineer their environment to make success easier and failure harder. They build accountability into their process. They track their actions, not just their results. They treat setbacks as data, not defeat. They extend their timelines to allow for reality. They connect their goals to their identity in ways that make quitting unthinkable. Most importantly, they understand that achievement isn't about being perfect. It's about being persistent. It's about showing up on the days when you don't feel like it. It's about treating yourself with compassion when you fall short while maintaining relentless standards for your effort. Now, here's what I want you to do. Not tomorrow, not next week. Right now, pick one goal, just one. Something you've been putting off or something you've tried and failed at before. Get specific about what success looks like. Write down your implementation intention, your if-then statement. Identify one person you'll share this with who will hold you accountable. That's it. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't try to overhaul your entire life. Pick one goal and execute this system. Prove to yourself that you can be someone who follows through, because here's what I've learned. Achieving one meaningful goal changes everything. It's not about the goal itself. It's about who you become in the process. You develop confidence. You build trust with yourself. You create momentum, and then the next goal becomes easier, and the next one after that. Not because the goals get easier, but because you get better at the process. Individuals who set goals are 43% more likely to achieve them. Think about that. Just by reading this video and implementing what you've learned, you've dramatically improved your odds. The only question is whether you'll actually do it. Most people won't. They'll watch this video, feel inspired, maybe even write down a goal. And then tomorrow they'll go back to their old patterns. The 92%, but you can be different. You can be the 8%, not because you're special, but because you understand the system. You know the psychology, you've seen the research. And most importantly, you're willing to show up consistently even when it's hard. So here's my challenge: prove me wrong about the 92%. Be the exception. Not because you have veto prove anything to me, but because you deserve to see what you're capable of when you actually commit to something and see it through. The gap between who you are and who you want to be isn't about talent or luck or circumstances. It's about having a system and refusing to quit. That's it. That's the whole secret. If you found this video helpful, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. This will help me create more videos like this. So thank you for subscribing to the channel, and see you in the next one.